Hello, everyone. Welcome to Change and Thrive. I'm your host, Dr. Wendy Heckelman, CEO and founder of WH Consulting and Learning Solutions. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and select the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We know that the pandemic and the economic impact is forcing organizations to transform their strategy and ways of working. Michael Porter is quoted as saying, "Risk is a function of how poorly a strategy will perform if the wrong scenario occurs." As part of our approach to change implementation, we believe it is critical for organizations embarking on their change journey to construct a plan to address business impact and risk. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the importance of planning for risk. I've had the privilege to work with Kerry Clem, Senior Vice President, Sales and Payer Relations at Acorda Therapeutics for over 13 years through several transformations to join our conversation and offer his valuable insights on how leaders can proactively plan for risks and engage their leaders at all levels. Kerry, I am so happy to have you here today, and thank you for making time.
Wendy, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here as well.
Well, we know, Kerry, that through research and experience, that two things drive successful change. One, an effective implementation cascade, a roadmap, and leaders who can lead their teams through transition. And you and I have spent a lot of time talking about the importance of establishing the business case for change and readying organizations with a deliberate implementation plan. Why do you believe this is so critical?
Wendy, as you know, as an emerging biotech organization, change is inevitable because you're constantly evolving in order to take yourself to the next level. But not all change carries the same implications. We've called upon our relationship with WLH on many occasions, but I'll focus on two that were really extremely business critical. The first involved preparing our organization to launch the company's second commercially available product. This opportunity presented a host of potential challenges because we were launching into an unfamiliar market after enjoying years of success promoting our flagship product in another area. Inherently, this created some angst amongst the team because that meant that we were going from being a well-established, known entity with strong relationships and a high level of expertise to really starting over again as an unproven player with limited knowledge in this new space. You take that and couple it with the fact that the industry landscape, just in general, had been changing rapidly since we launched our first drug, and you can see why there was quite a bit for us to contend with. The second situation involved an organizational structure change that was a significant departure from the traditional field team structure. We did so with the intent on placing strategic decision-making at the local level and increasing cross-functional engagement. All good reasons, but as you well know, that doesn't come without its challenges as well. Making this change would require that all team members rethink reporting relationships and multi-directional accountability, as well as embrace the opportunity to enhance their competencies that they've established previously outside of their normal realm. In both instances, readying the organization for change at all levels was critical to the success of these initiatives in ensuring understanding, buy-in, and a high level of execution.
Kerry, I completely agree with you, having traveled this road with you. And the importance of readying the organization, ensuring there was buy-in for change really set the stage. And as we work together, we know that a critical component early is to consider the risks that the organization might encounter and develop a plan for those, to get ahead of what are the challenges that you're going to experience. So when we were planning for the transformation, from your perspective, what were the most important business considerations and potential risks, both from an internal, organizational, as well as an external perspective?
Sure, Wendy. Regarding the product launch, we were dealing with the high expectations of a solid launch performance that was really important for the next growth phase of the organization. This performance was obviously going to be directly related to our ability to quickly engage new customers and accelerate our place in this new market as a trusted partner. In the midst of this, we also needed to focus on the mindset and motivation of our most valuable asset, our people, our team, who understandably shared a mix of enthusiasm and apprehension about the change. Some were excited to be taking on a new challenge, and others questioned if venturing into a new space was really what they wanted in their careers at this time. The obvious risk was the potential impact this conundrum would have on the success of the launch and cohesiveness of the team. In regards to the change in the team structure, ensuring that leadership understood the strategic rationale and was prepared to address potential concerns and growing pains was critical. We have a saying, so goes the leader, so goes the team. So it was imperative that the leadership team increased their cross-functional knowledge and modeled the behaviors that we were striving to achieve. In turn, the business would benefit from more informed and robust customer engagement, but we also needed to manage potential confusion stemming from the change.
Now, I know that in both of these transformations, not only did we talk about the plan for the business risks upon implementation, but we also spent some time thinking about business continuity, because a lot of times as organizations start to undergo change, we know that some things are absolutely critical to continue, and other things need to be deprioritized. So can you talk about how change can be a distraction, and what steps you and the team, I guess all of us, took to avoid the impact on business continuity?
Yeah, Wendy, you're exactly right. Change can be a huge distraction, even when it's a positive change, because it often requires people to have to think or act differently. Anytime you disrupt a routine, a process, or system, you risk affecting continuity. As you can imagine, continuity is vital in our relationship with healthcare providers, patients, caregivers, and payers, which had implications in both scenarios that we're talking about. A new product launch requires a focus on execution and attention to performance, constantly assessing the viability of your strategy and course correcting along the way. However, in doing so, it is very easy to take your eye off of the ball of other aspects of the business, specifically for us, the other product that we were selling. Even though the launch was the number one priority, we had to give equal weight to our communications and recognition of performance to both brands to keep the combined importance top of mind. The last thing we wanted was for the stakeholders invested in us for so many years to feel abandoned or experience changes in service and support because we allowed ourselves to be distracted by the new, bright and shiny thing. The organizational change truly had the potential of having a negative impact on our business continuity because it changed how our team interacted cross-functionally and with leadership. It also impacted our decision-making processes and ultimately how we were going to be engaging with our customers. This was an internal change, not something that was obvious to the external environment, but could have had significant business implications if it wasn't executed appropriately. Again, mitigating a fallout involved a lot of communication that was consistently tied to our vision and our ultimate goal, as well as showing how people affected could benefit from the change.
Absolutely. Communicating through the process was critical, and engaging your leaders, because you spent time, right, not only envisioning what the risk would be and the mitigation strategies and the continuity, but you engage your leaders to get their buy-in and their perspective was really a critical differentiator. In both cases, we used a structured process for not only identifying the risks, but also prioritizing them, those that were within your control and the control of your teams. So can you share how you went about really identifying and prioritizing those risks?
Yeah, sure, Wendy. My standard operating procedure is to engage those being affected by my actions or decisions for their input on that given situation. In both cases, I brought cross-functional leaders and other members of the team together to first work through how they felt about the change. In my opinion, it's critical that the people charged with reinforcing your lead not only understand the vision, objectives, and expectations, but also have the opportunity to express any opposition or concern they may have, if any. You don't need 100% buy-in from everyone. In many cases, you won't get it. It's unreasonable. But you do need 100% commitment that everyone will do their part to ensure success. After settling that, we worked out what they anticipated the challenges to be and their ideas on how to manage those challenges. Together, we prioritized the risk and aligned on mitigation strategies that help us all accountable at various levels.
After we did this work, we created a mini reference guide for the leaders to use. So once they identified a particular risk for a member of their team, or they could then put a mitigation strategy in place. And it ended up being really their playbook for working individually with their teams and making sure there was continuity and that the change would happen. Can you talk a little bit about the benefits of working with your leaders and really engaging them to identify and prioritize the risks? How was it beneficial to jointly come up with the prioritized mitigation strategies?
Yes, as I was just alluding to, there are numerous benefits in working with the leadership team to identify and prioritize risk, and then moving forward and collectively developing mitigation strategies. Accountability is key in change leadership and readily embraced when you have some say in what you're being asked to do. You also naturally establish a level of ownership in the process when you have contributed to developing the strategies and tactics. This helps the leaders explain and sometimes defend the vision and opportunity to those that are struggling to understand the business case for change or just not aligned with the direction. You're also more likely to come up with a more robust and relevant plan when the people closest to the business and frontline team are involved in the process. Executive leaders like myself like to believe that we have all the answers, but in many cases, that is far from the truth. The best ideas often come from those at the pointy end of the stick, if you will, and it is our job to coalesce their input into a cogent strategy.
Totally agree. That's why this approach of cascading is fairly effective. And we know that communicating across the organization and then sharing those risk mitigation plans are helpful for others. So you gain input because not everybody has all the answers, and also you seek to gain alignment. I'd like you to characterize the communications and the monitoring you put in place to ensure that the leaders were sharing the lessons learned and recalibrating continuously.
Yeah, well, Wendy, we both agree communication is the key element in change leadership. So we establish a regular cadence of basic things like emails, voicemails, and team calls and meetings to reinforce the direction, address observations, and gain insights from the leadership team. These were also opportunities for the leaders to share best practices and learnings and to have honest dialogue about how things were going. Providing a safe, non-judgmental environment for your leadership to speak openly is very important in making real progress. From a monitoring perspective, there's really no better gauge on leadership effectiveness than hearing from the people that you lead. So we established field team advisory boards that we would speak with on a regular basis as a feedback loop on their understanding of the vision, objectives, and expectations. If they were not clear, then we had a lot more work that we needed to do.
Absolutely. Kerry, I want to thank you so much for joining today and sharing your very valuable insights on the importance of examining risks as part of successfully driving a change strategy.
Wendy, it was my pleasure. You're doing great things with this program, and I hope that the tidbits from this session have been of some benefit and value to your audience.
Thank you very much. I want to recap a few key takeaways for leaders to construct a plan to address business impact and risks. And the first is it is critical to identify continuing business requirements and goals that need to be managed during the transition. The second is determine areas of potential business risks that may be associated with the proposed changes. Third, develop mitigation strategies to address the risk factors and minimize customer impact. And fourth, communicate and align with others on your risk mitigation plans. So if you're an organization needing support to implement large-scale change or to build change leadership capabilities in your organization, feel free to reach out. If you're ready to commit to your change journey so that you can thrive within your business, check out my new book, Change and Thrive, a modern approach to change leadership, now available on Amazon. And I'd like to thank today's guest, Kerry Clem, for joining us. And have a wonderful rest of the day, and see you next week.